Hello, guys and gals, me Mutahar, and you might have heard of an app called Wizz, also known as Tinder for Kids. Now, I'm a little bit on the shocked side. I didn't know that child dating apps were kind of a thing, but apparently we live in a day and age where there's a startup for pretty much every single thing imaginable. Now, I saw this the other day. It was actually mentioned by a few people, and apparently, this application is basically rife, surprise, surprise, with predators going after the kids. Now, I decided I wanted to go through all the clickbait and actually look into this story for what it actually is. So I decided to go to the actual Wiz application, for instance, ladies and gentlemen, and I wanted to see exactly what was being offered over here. So I go to the Wiz website, and it's very much geared and marketed towards teenagers, as you can tell. Because I've never met an adult that goes, "Let's vibe, chat with me, let's chat." And of course, it's filled to the brim with all this kind of Zoomer Doomer speak. But of course, ultimately, it's an application that lets you DM people, tell them that they're stunning, ask them who they like the most, and it's just filled with all of these people. Okay, a lot of them appear to be teenagers. In fact, according to these guys, they want to transform how young people connect, share, and grow together. Now, when I was younger, generally speaking, you would just talk to kids at school, at the community center, in an extracurricular activity. And if you needed to keep things online, you would get your MSN ID or whatever the fuck it may be and talk to them online that way. You never really talked to random people on the internet because when I was a kid, it wasn't just my parents that told me, like literally the school told me, it's like, bro, most of the people on the internet are kitty diddlers. Stay far, far and away. Never meet up with somebody online, okay? I don't know why we don't teach kids this kind of common sense, but it is what it is. So it's a place to build new friendships and boost that self-esteem, offering a vibrant space to embrace social interaction free from the pressures of likes and follower counts. Now, I would imagine if your application is kind of like Tinder for kids, Tinder is all about, who's the prettiest catfish out in the world, who gets swiped right the most. So anyways, I tried to actually get this application, and just to show you, I wanted to give you a journey as a man in his 30s, because ultimately this is not an application that's geared towards my age. But I figured I'm going to download my first child, teen dating application, I guess you could say. It's pretty disgusting I'm saying that in my age, but the process is pretty simple. Go to the app. Now, when you go to the App Store, it's interesting that it's an app marketed for younger people, but it says you got to be 18 plus. And of course, when you go down, you can even see that people reviewing it go, "Yeah, I was banned for simply trying to verify on this application," which is, again, wild shit to see. But yeah, installing it was pretty simple. It's just a quick download. One thing I didn't know about this was apparently it also had age assurance through Apple, which is the first time I've actually ever seen that on an app. So you download the application, and it asks you to create a new account. Now, it asked me to make an account with my Apple account or Google. So they're kind of passing the buck off to a lot of these third-party platforms. Platforms where you can also kind of fake your age if you're smart enough. Kids, obviously, are very smart, as are predators, unfortunately, when it comes to preying on children in spaces like this. So I made an account, and then it started asking me for age verification. Now, for some reason, when I showed it my face, it said that there was something, there was an error with facial recognition. So I tried again, and lo and behold, I actually ended up getting banned off of Wizz. So I don't know if I'm on a fucking watch list, probably am, but not the watch list that I enjoy being on, actually. So anyways, I go to their actual website over here, and they say that, bro, we're all about being safe, okay? Wiz uses sophisticated AI algorithms for age verification developed by Yoti, a company trusted by the UK Home Office and the NHS. Now, fun fact about companies that do age verification, there are people that can bypass the age verification using applications like video games, games like Death Stranding 2, for instance. I think even Gmod was used to bypass some dogshit age verification. And of course, ultimately, there are also people that look, frankly, too young for their ages, okay? There's some people that are straight fucking vampires. Now, what if those adults could possibly end up getting into young child zones? This is why whenever you have kids or applications like this that allows like 13-year-olds to death continue, okay? 13 to like 100 talk to each other. There's gonna be predators, okay? It's simple as that. It goes all the way from fucking Roblox to here. You should not be letting kids jump onto apps like this. What happened to schools? What happened to meeting in reality, okay? What happened to going to the fucking YMCA? That's the question I'm asking. Anyways, looking into this application, obviously one of the important aspects about this was when people had asked in their FAQ, is the app safe for 13-year-olds? Yes, since the beginning, the safety of our users has been the top priority. Contributing to our success, young people can truly be themselves and form meaningful connections. Okay, yeah, talking to, I guess, other catfish, I'm sure. Now, obviously, they say that, is it for adults? Wizz is a place where young people can safely and authentically express themselves. So people who are between 13 and 17 can only speak to people that are 1 year younger or older than them, okay? People who are 18 to 24 can speak with people from the entire age range, right? So I assume 18 to 100, not anything below that. Now, why was Wizz removed from the App Store? Last February, Wizz faced negative publicity when several media platforms alleged that there was a high number of scammers on the application. This resulted in the app being temporarily removed from Apple App and Google Play stores. During this period, representatives from both stores conducted thorough internal and external audits of our platform. Following these audits, both companies confirmed that the app is safe for users to be put back online. Now again, to go back onto the App Store and Google Play Store are not, again, shockingly difficult things to do, but the way that they say scammer actually pisses me off. Because it's not just a scammer, ladies and gentlemen. Actually, the scam that was being mentioned here was something known as sextortion. Now, for anybody that doesn't know what sextortion is, the FBI details it as any scam that starts on any website, app, messaging platform where a person can meet and communicate. So in this case, a criminal goes to a child, right? And they impersonate another child and they start getting images, right? So kids possibly send a lewd image of themselves to some random catfish on the internet. That catfish then uses that image to blackmail the kid and say, listen, I'll send this to all your family and friends, and it's not something that, kid obviously wants shared around. So for children, they are actually threatened by sick pedophilic perverts on the internet for this kind of stuff, right? And generally speaking, children are very scared. They don't want to go to their parent, even though they absolutely should. They don't want to go to the police. They don't want to go to any adult, okay? Because there's a lot of shame. There's a lot of fear that comes from this. Ultimately, at the end of the day, if you're a kid that's being sextorted, go talk to your parents. Or if you can't talk to your parents, talk to a fucking teacher. Talk to a police officer, okay? Talk to an actual adult in this situation. Because ultimately, you're not to blame. It's the sick fucking pedophile on the internet that is to actually blame. Now, I wanted to look at the actual articles talking about this kind of stuff from back in January 2024. And then, obviously, we're going to look at stuff in this year alone. So again, right over here, they say popular social media apps fuel a disturbing surge in child sextortion. So in this case, ladies and gentlemen, they do mention the app Wizz. So the study, basically done by the Network Contagion Research Institute, right? If you want to look at this research yourself, they're the ones that looked at plenty of applications. So inside their actual key takeaway, they said that nearly all of the activity is linked to West African cyber criminals known as the Yahoo Boys, who are primarily targeting English-speaking minors and young adults on Instagram, Snapchat, and Wizz. And the problem is, because the fucking Yahoo Boys, being in Nigeria, are in Nigeria, chasing them, across international lines is usually a very big difficulty, okay? In a normal civilized world, a lot of the people scamming young children in sextortion schemes would probably be shot in the fucking head. Not that I am actually advocating violence, okay? I'm saying that these people should be put through the legal system and a death penalty should be applied. That's just how I believe these situations should be handled, okay? To all my tax dollars funding any of these fucking scumbags to live and wean off of, okay? Just get rid of them, simple as that. Now, of course, what's really disturbing too is that these scumbags distribute instructional videos and scripts on TikTok, even YouTube, and platforms like Scribd enabling and encouraging other criminals. These people are bombing high schools, youth sports teams, and universities with fake accounts using advanced social engineering tactics. Because yes, in the world of artificial generative AI, you can make the craziest phishing emails in the world. You can basically pretend to be somebody from here even if you have no idea how to do that in the first place. So when it came to sites like Wizz, they said it's the third most prevalent but fastest rising social media platform. This trending app has similar features to Tinder, but is marketed towards children and has been downloaded 15 million times. Now, I have to really ask the question into this, why in the flying fuck are we actually marketing a Tinder-like application to children? People under the age of 18. Do we not notice the issues here? And they say that, again, there is a high frequency of complaints that the app is serving porno ads to minors. Not that that would shock me because I've seen porno ads on places like YouTube even. Wizz is owned by a French app maker Voodoo and does not report incidents of child exploitation on its platform to the NCMEC. Now, while that's what this report says, if you actually go to Wizz's website, you can see that they do actually say underneath US law in order to adhere to it, they do have to report any observed cases of, exploitation, grooming, or abuse to the NCMEC, right? So, again, kind of a contrast between their research and, again, what the Wizz site is saying. So, again, a little bit of an issue, obviously, as you can imagine. Now, here's the thing. You know that it's bad because even platforms like Tinder, which, by the way, used to have an under 18 section, yes, even Tinder did for a while. But around in 2016, even Tinder ended up coming out and saying, yeah, we're just not going to allow anybody between 13 and 17 to even be here, even though that they were only matching people in that range. We have decided to discontinue service for under 18 users. We believe it's the best policy moving forward. And obviously it is, because whenever you have this mixture, you just don't want to take that risk, man. You really fucking don't. So you can go to the Wizz app and they were like, cause of death, being too good, which is again when their app was taken off the store last year. So again, when you look close into literally it's an app designed for actual children, goddamn. So of course you can even see in the comments over here, literally a place where I get either complimented or borderline harassed. Now this kind of an application is really fucking dark because ultimately when you start to look at some of the stories surrounding this, it gets scary. Even with some of the best age verification, which again, like I said at the beginning, it's not a 100% bulletproof solution, which it has to be when you're talking about a application that is kind of primarily built for letting teens meet each other, okay? Build connections, date, whatever, right? But at the end of the day, right, when you look at things like this, one instance where a 27-year-old Homewood man was facing charges for allegedly using a teen-focused social app to meet and abuse underage girls. So inside the story over here, they said that Porus was on an app called Wizz, and he'd been talking for several weeks before meeting in person 2 days earlier, right? This is a huge issue. I think even the application should always jump in and like insta-block people when they start talking about meeting up in reality. Minors should not be meeting up with somebody randomly on the internet, okay? And I'll get to that just in a little bit. So again, in this situation, this guy did actually end up and unfortunately committed the crime. So, and this wasn't a case of like this guy got like catfished or this guy got lied to. His profile allegedly said he was 15. In private messages, he claimed to be 19. In reality, he was well past barely legal ages. The girl said she was 14, though she was actually 13. So the girl wasn't really lying about her age, but this man, well, this scumbag apparently seemed to absolutely take advantage of an underage person. Now, of course, there was also another situation, and this is recently from this year. Now, this individual is a U.S. Marine. Carlos David Becaro Lewis is an individual that was arrested for assaulting an 11-year-old in Hawaii. So you might be like, well, where did he actually do it? Where did he find this person? And again, he apparently allegedly found them on Wizz, a messaging app aimed between the youths of 13 and 24. So Wizz touts that it has a user base of millions of users and claims that 25% of US teens has downloaded Wizz. So if you're an American, 1 in 4 kids apparently is on this application, which is kind of insane to think. So the victim said that she was 14 on Wizz, but used a photograph of herself at 11 years old. Now, this guy identified himself as being 15, so he matched that 1 year, like, allowance and tolerance in the actual application. Now, I have to kind of ask, right, how did this guy bypass the age verification? Well, if he managed to get this true, and it seems like it is because of, again, the law enforcement getting involved, you have to, again, understand that age verification isn't bulletproof, okay? Scumbags are able to use this, and when you are verified, unfortunately, it does make it easier, because when you're on a platform where verification is such a hard and fast rule, a lot of children do get in, and these predators can intermingle, and now they have a lot of these verified accounts that they can apparently diddle with, okay? For them, it's easier because now they have this verified pool of children to play with, as opposed to predators literally catfishing one another, which probably still does happen, because yes, predators love these kind of applications, okay? Because kids are on there, okay? It's literally a hunting ground for them. Now, Barrick Lewis told the victim in this case to download Snapchat, another degenerate platform, just to continue this conversation. Now, again, maybe I'm just too fucking old. I never understood the appeal of Snapchat. I'm pretty sure it was just primarily used to, like, share fucking nudes around. But, yeah, maybe I'm old school, man. If I need to message somebody, I just use the messaging app on my fucking phone, all right? It's just that easy. But, yeah, pictures and messages were sent via Snapchat, automatically delete after being viewed. Now, from what I understand, if you're law enforcement, you can just subpoena this information, even if it's disappeared off of Snapchat. I also really have to ask the question where the parents are involved in this case, too. Again, you need to monitor your kids. You can't just let them go onto these applications and just think everything is all willy-nilly, okay? But that's a different story. A story I wish got talked about a little bit more. Again, I feel like a lot of this stuff, I feel like these applications are kind of spawning up, like these startups are here, just so a lot of these governments have an excuse to launch like age verification and like ID gated internet. Because yeah, I don't know why these apps exist. Why do we have any application resembling dating shit that involves minors? But again, there's an online platform, there's a law group called Levy Law that actually talks a little bit more about each and every single one of these cases. For instance, in cybertip.ca, which is a Canadian tip line, according to Levy Law and according to Cybertip, they received over 180 reports allegedly linked to that Wizz app involving child exploitation since 2021. According to people that are on the application, they said that many profile pictures, which again, if some of these are minors, involve things like thirst traps, girls in sports bras, and boys posting shirtless selfies. Again, this is the other issue that comes with this too. It's like, you're kind of making scenarios where kids just get older a lot quicker. And again, the thing about things like Tinder is like, if you're a kid, to give you an idea, like Tinder is such a dog shit platform anyways, and I think most online dating platforms are dog shit. Most online dating platforms are filled with 40-year-old catfishes that literally try to find and like scam people out. Very rarely, very, very fucking rarely can you ever find any semblance of love on these platforms. Even if you do find a legitimate human being that is of the opposite sex, usually they want a credit card number because it turns out they're probably like internet escorts that you're dealing with. These are platforms that are not meant to find true love. They are filled with fake profiles, and all these platforms want you to do is pay for premium memberships just so you can actually hopefully find love. You want to find some real love? Let me give you some actual fucking tips. Go get a hobby, and somewhere in your hobby, you'll probably find somebody of the opposite sex that you'll have a connection over, you'll have something to talk about. Just go out into the real fucking world, okay? Plenty of fish in the sea. Just put yourself out there, pal. Look, if somebody as ugly as me can get hitched, you... buddy, the world is yours, okay? Scarface, the world is yours. Simple as that. And again, the more I look into this application, the things that gets weird about it too is like ultimately it has like microtransactions, coins, and just look at the shit that's going on here. You're sending people like bulk messages about being pretty and shit. Again, when I look into the comments for this too, and again, this is just like a comment somebody wrote here, but it's just like, yo, bruh, you know that ain't a real person. It's a catfish profile used by goofy little motherfuckers. You probably talking to some old man. What happened to kids just writing the words ass, okay? Yeah, but he's right though. It's probably just an old man. Let's be completely real here. You know, when I look at the actual app, like Wizz app unofficial on Reddit, some of the wildest things that you can find is shit like this. Secret chat. Someone sent you a chat, but who are they? Don't miss out. Get the key to reveal their profile now. I swear to God, fucking fuck apps have features like this, okay? It's just weird. I mean, why? Why are we making a platform for minors to do this shit? Even on other things, like 2 years ago, this guy's like, I saw a post about a Wizz alternative called Peekaboo. I don't even think this app is there. I highly recommend you avoid it as I set my age to 16. And I've had people in their 20s pop up on the swipe, and a 15-year-old girl has told me about numerous predators messaging her, which doesn't shock me, okay? It's crazy shit. I see MF's 1417 posting nudes on there, and it's like, what is going on? Why are teen dating apps even a thing? You know, at the end of the day, it almost reminds me of like, places like this. Like, this is obviously an extreme example, but one of the sites that I remember back, like when I was like looking in, because this is something that creepy that popped up. It was like an internet investigations things like r/internet mysteries, where again, there was a site called Teener Take, and it was apparently like a video, or like there was an ad for it on YouTube. I'd have to dig it up. But yeah, these are like, somebody made a website where people from 13 to 22 can get together and express their thoughts and takes, and forms groups and grade teachers and just interact with each other. Again, this is a red flag. This is a platform that you should not be on in the first place, okay? Especially kids interacting with adults in places like this almost always, okay, scientifically leads to bad things. You know, and I feel like ultimately a closing thought, I feel like a lot of this happens mostly because I think kids don't really have a lot of child spaces to interact in. Or maybe the internet's just different. Look, when I was a kid, back in the day, talking to somebody on the internet really just meant that, you know, you met them in real life, you got their MSN screen ID, and then you just talked to them after school. You know, I never really talked to kids from other schools or other areas. I guess if you're counting maybe Xbox Live, but honestly, by the time I got to senior year, at that point, I talked to other people and made friends over Xbox Live that didn't go to my school. But maybe that's just a product of being on the early internet. Nowadays, kids are kind of surrounded by apps and social media, so times be a little bit different. But when I was younger, you know, having things like old school RuneScape to play on with my friends, which was, again, more of a child-friendly area to go into. And honestly, even Ben, like playing things like Neopets or even Habba Hotel was generally a more kid-friendly area. Places like Club Penguin, which exist solely in private server fashion, there used to be a lot of kid-friendly, teen-friendly zones back in the day. And now, it just doesn't seem like that's mostly the case these days. Or maybe kids are just growing up too fast. But ladies and gentlemen, teen dating applications. I think it's one of the creepiest things that exist out there, and it's just a hotbed for molestation. So if you have young people in your life, make sure that they're not on these applications. And if you're a kid, don't go on to something that even resembles Tinder, okay? Stop trying to rizz up girls online, okay? Talk to kids in your school, people that are actually your age. Okay? Trust me. Don't miss out on the magic and mystery of being a teenager, okay? Don't miss out on the awkwardness and weirdness of it, okay? We were all teenagers at some point. And when you're an adult like me, all right, and you're fucking paying taxes and all that stupid shit, you're going to miss wanting to be a teenager. So just be a teenager. Don't get locked into the internet meta right now, okay? Live life for the years that you have it, for those formative years, and stay far away from internet predators and horny old men that just want to take sick fucking advantage of you. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, this is me, Mutahar, and if you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike if you dislike it. I am out.